Hey guys, Mike here and welcome to my hardcore series, where we have a bunch of unfinished mega projects, such as our Dwarven storage room that needs way more gold, which for a Dwarven themed world is a bit of a joke. So that's what we're going to tackle in today's video, guys. We're going to attempt to build a bunch of farms that will hopefully help in shaping our Dwarven mega city. So if this series sounds like something you'd love to follow along with, I would absolutely love it if you'd consider hitting that subscribe button, as it would greatly help me out. However, as we jump into the video this week, although this is unrelated to the project that we're going to be working on, I actually realized that not many people seem to actually understand that this was supposed to be multiple mountains kind of next to each other. Instead, it kind of just looked like one big mountain. So we needed to add a little bit more of a valley between the two peaks, so we're going ahead and clearing out the ridge that connected these two mountains. But don't worry, we will build up these two mountains and then we'll connect these two together with a nice valley-way once we've done the two sides. If we just jump into the Nether, there is two ways that people build in the Nether in Minecraft, and that is by one, bugging onto the Nether roof. The other and more clinically insane idea is that we just clear out the entire Nether region. So we'll see how viable this is, but we need to go and repair our tools first. And I don't think I actually filmed this, but I actually ended up creating just a little runway that headed straight out to our Enderman farm. I also realized one of my pickaxes didn't have mending on it when I was repairing them, so that's gonna have to be something that we just grab real quickly. I also just need to run over to our iron farm real quickly to grab a bunch of iron, where this is going to allow us to create a bunch of anvils so we can go ahead and apply all of these enchants, just so we could go ahead and apply it to all these pickaxes. But most importantly, first we need to add mending to this one, and with some fire resistance potions in our inventory, we can head into the Nether, where we get right to work in mining out an area. Now originally I did want to do a 1000 by 1000 area, but I very quickly realized that this was not going to be feasible, as it was just way too long of an area to actually mine out. So I did scale it down to 500 by 500. Well, about 30,000 netherrack later, and I can confirm that we are not going to be able to get this done for a project, because we've been doing this now for just short of 3 hours, broken nearly 5 pickaxes, and we have barely even made a dent in the first layer. And yep, I really should be moving on, but I'm just kind of getting carried away. Just really fancied mining out a chunk to see how long it would take. I don't know why I'm doing it. Yep, I have no idea why I just did that, but we've done it, so hey ho. I quite enjoyed it, actually. I'm also very quickly going to place down some chests that I brought with me so we can organize all of the stuff that we mine whilst we're here in the Nether. But I am not as easily as defeated as you may think I am, and I was determined to mine out this 500 by 500 area just so that we could build some farms within the actual Nether region, because I really wanted to avoid jumping onto the Nether roof. As I genuinely believe there is nothing inherently wrong with actually getting onto the Nether roof, I really just want to make this series appeal to everybody, and I know that Bedrock players can't get onto the Nether roof, so I would love to have designed and built some evil lair that could contain all these farms so that anybody that was daring enough could actually copy. But I quickly ran into a problem whilst I was doing this, as I very quickly realized I had vastly miscalculated the time that it was going to take. For some reason in my brain I thought there was only 30 chunks in a 500 by 500 area, and on average it would take me about 1 hour to mine out each chunk. But if you actually do the math properly, there's actually about 900 chunks. Yes, that means it would take me about 900 hours of my life to do this project, which means you probably wouldn't get a video until after Christmas. So that was not going to cut it, so I had to scale this back, and unfortunately I did have to go with the Nether roof idea. But I continued to mine out a bunch of chunks to showcase my dedication to eventually getting this done and moving all the farms below the Nether roof. Minus the lava pools, which we'll have to empty in the future, this is off to a pretty solid start. But at the risk of sounding a bit pandery, I will apologize. I know that getting onto the Nether roof is not everybody's cup of tea, and some of you guys frown upon it as a Minecraft cardinal sin, but as a lot of the blocks that I need to progress this world are soft locked behind Nether Farms, I kind of had to commit this sin in order to make progress faster, to bring videos out sooner, so please forgive me for that. Also wanted to mention that there is a bit of an issue with the audio. I accidentally had an audio source enabled that allowed the base Minecraft sound to come through twice. A bit of a mistake on my end, but hopefully it doesn't ruin the video. But let's move on and jump onto the Nether roof. We've hopped over to the old base as we need to grab some obsidian. And no, I'm not taking chances by only making 1 flint and steel either. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn this unsuspecting house into our nether roof portal room, as this makes sense because it's easily accessible from our kingdom. So as we're working and building this area up, if we ever need to repair tools or anything, we can just hop back in here. And as long as my knowledge doesn't desert me, which tends to happen, and we remember to grab some ladders, which are necessary, I realized I also don't have ender pearls, which I also need, so 2 seconds. Meh. Thank you very much. Wow. I'm sorry about that. I just felt like I really wanted to do something creative for that transition, where you have to find a block where when you look at it, it comes up with Y127. Then I think it's as simple as just putting ladders up and you grab your ender pearls. We make sure that we've got obsidian and flint and steel, as it's the only way to get out. There we should just be able to do that. And we're on the nether roof, where in theory building a nether portal here should result in connecting up with the nether portal in our overworld. And the moment of truth, there we go. We have now connected that to our world. But let's move on to building our first farm, where we are going to need to gather some resources, which some we used to have in here. Where did all the glass go? Seemingly, I think I've used a lot of it. So we hopped over to our villager trading hall so we could trade in some iron and grab some emeralds to purchase some glass. But I'm starting to think that we should probably work on expanding our villager trading farm over in the main area of the city to include more librarians, because this is gonna be a long process. And whilst we wait for the trades to reset, we can go ahead and make ourselves some powered and normal rails, where I can only thank myself for mining some of the gold out the nether much earlier. We should now have enough powered rails. Turns out we also need a little bit more wood, as we need to make some chests and some hoppers, but we should have some right in our storage area over here. Thank you very much. Actually, after all that, I think, oh yeah, we literally had loads in here. We didn't really have to waste iron on that, but anyway. And once upon a time, we planted a bunch of pumpkins, and I didn't think I'd actually ever need them, but it turns out the day has arrived. So it's a good job that we planted these, to be honest. And why not just extend the farm a little bit, as we'll probably need some more again in the next 2,000 days or so. But heading back in to our first trading hall, the glass should have reset by now, and that should indeed have give us all the glass that we need. In fact, we don't actually need all of that, so we can have a little bit extra in the chest just in case. We even had a stack of levers in our chest in our old base, would you believe it? I also jumped into the nether as we needed some building bricks to build the farm out of, and I really wanted to use nether brick, as I just thought it would make a cool sort of harsher, more evil looking block tone to use for the build. But with 8 stacks got, we can head back to the overworld and some quick crafting of some hopper minecart. This should be everything that we need for farm number 1, which I believe it is, so we can pick that up. Where I need to try and find the basalt deltas biome, which is right about here. I wanted to make sure that we were firmly inside the basalt deltas, so I've double checked all of these points. We can go ahead and place down our shulkers and get to work building the farm. And at 8 minutes into the video, I don't actually think I've explained why I'm actually building a Froglight farm, and that is because it's going to allow us to farm a bunch of light sources to use for the shadow effect that we've been meaning to complete in our Dwarven world since we actually made the entranceway over a year ago. It also goes without saying that a link to all of the farms that I build in this video will be down below as well. Well, we have to take a quick break from the time-lapse as we have to go and grab some frogs, but the only problem is I haven't actually found frogs on this world yet, so that's going to be an adventure in of itself. But as I don't think I've actually found a swamp on this world, and I don't think anything's showing up long distance with distant horizons, we're just going to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a frog by its tadpole. We're going to head in this direction. But I am beginning to notice a bit of a flaw with using distant horizons, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it off real quick. I think we've found a jungle biome in which there is a structure here that I don't actually recognize. Is this a jungle temple? I don't know if I really want to be exploring this, but we'll give it a quick try. Don't really think there was anything in here worth exploring, to be honest. Don't know if this is supposed to be out of the water, but that's a funky terrain generation right there. I ended up finding my way back to my own base. I genuinely have no idea how this happened. I obviously just wasn't paying attention to the direction I was heading, but... Oh well, we'll head in this direction and we'll continue to try and find out. And upon my travels, I came across this insane cave which has future potential for a awesome dwarven base, as well as a bunch of POIs such as a pale forest. So I took down the coordinates, but the rest of the trip was pretty uneventful, and about 1 hour later, we finally found it. And I have to be honest, chat, I have spent about 10 to 15 minutes wandering this swamp over and over again, just trying to get one single frog. Well, I had no luck in this mangrove swamp, but luckily I realised there's one just over the way over here, so we'll jump over here, and hopefully this one will provide us with a little bit more luck. Because at this point, I am quite very quickly losing the will to live. Oh, I just saw something. Was that? Yes, we found a frog. Oh, please be another one. Please be another one somewhere. Is that another one? That's another one down here. We can breed them. We can breed them. Feed you, come on. Yes. Now I just need to wait for that to spawn, I think, and then we can pick it up in our bucket. Oh, the hatch, and we got one. We can use our last bucket. Where did it go? Oh, I accidentally released one. 3, there we go. We should have 3 buckets of tadpoles now. Head into the sky, and we can now begin to head back to our base. Oh, you are a unfinished sight for sore eyes, but I am glad to be back at the base. Now, I don't want to go ahead and shock anyone, but unfortunately, it seems like Microsoft is currently down at the time of recording this particular segment, as I've tried to restart my client several times, and it's not loading my profile or my skin. So for now, let's just say I'm playing as Gimli's sister. I'm actually just temporarily using this build-in to very quickly make a temporary area where we can go ahead and place these tadpoles. So whilst we wait for them to grow up, we're going to go and grab some slime balls. So with the tadpoles just on the other side of this wall, we can actually just hover around here and wait for some slimes to spawn and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So the frogs will grow up and we'll gather some slime for breeding them first. And that didn't take too long for some to spawn. I think we also need to preemptively make a saddle for the next ghast, and hopefully we don't kill it this time, as well as grab some of the leads so we can move a bunch of the frogs to the nether. And there we are. We've now officially got our second ghast saddled and straddled. And there we have it. We have our first froggies, but we need to go ahead and breed these now so that we can get even more froggies. So a lot of standing around later, we eventually got the frogs that we needed, as well as finally went to the snow biome just at the top of our dwarven hill and bred some snow frogs, as well as went to the savannah biome where our hobbiton is, so that we could get all 3 different types of frogs and we could finally lead them into the nether and get them into our farm. But with the last of the frogs in the farm, we can jump into finishing off this farm as a whole. But with the easiest farm out the way, we can go ahead and jump on to our second farm of the episode, which is going to be a little bit more difficult than the first. But before we do, I thought I'd just very quickly interject, as Future Mike here just wanted to mention that you do need to add chains around the golem's head if you want to prevent the magma cubes from being able to attack and destroy the iron golems. This is just a change that was pretty recent. The fix is in the comment section of the video, but I know that some people might skip over the comment section, so I thought I'd include it in mine. So let's jump on to farm number 2, which is going to be a gold farm, because we need a bunch of gold in order to fill our vault that we've just been in, and I would also like to use gold in future projects in this world. But as of right now, we barely have any gold. We have like 7 gold blocks, so we're going to need a gold farm. But as some of you more experienced players will know, gold farms were recently nerfed, and it means that we can no longer get XP from AFK designed farms, and instead we have to now build a farm which is going to allow us to kill the zombie piglins. So what I'm about to build may not make sense to some of you more veteran players, but it'll work out, trust me. First of all, we need to go and gather the materials. I was very, very lucky to actually think ahead in this instance, and I actually went ahead and kept all of the magma blocks that we were mining whilst clearing out the chunks earlier in the episode. So we've now got the spawning platforms instantly done. But in order to avoid getting confused with all of the resources that we need to gather, I've come into the nether roof and found an area which is a nether waste biome with at least 100 blocks or so in each direction before it changes biome, so that we've got plenty of room to build in. And I'm going to go ahead and build a bunch of chests, which is going to allow me to store everything as we gather it, just to make life that little bit easier. So we can quickly go ahead and just fill one double chest with all of the magma blocks that we've gathered so far. But with a bunch of iron loaded up, I got some of the villagers in place so we could begin to expand our villager trading hall to include some librarians, which allowed me to go ahead and use the iron I had just gathered to trade into emeralds above, then trading the emeralds in for glass. That should be more than enough glass, so let's get this over to our storage, which I have gone ahead and looked at a material list finally, and I've realized that I actually need a lot more magma blocks. I actually need another shulker box and a half worth of magma blocks, so we'll go and grab as much as we can from the visible magma blocks. And back at our storage, this is going to be the moment of truth on whether or not I've actually got enough, which after a bit of counting, this large double chest should give us 54 stacks of magma blocks. Then in here we have 36 plus a little bit extra, and adding those two together should give us about 90 stacks with a little bit left over, which is more than enough to get this farm done. But first we just need to head back, as we're gonna need to grab some scaffolding and some other temporary blocks to build with, which I totally forgot to record us grabbing from our base. And I will also go ahead and mention at this point of this build that it might seem like we haven't gathered enough to build the actual whole thing, and that is because the actual killing chamber element of this build is completely different, but I'll explain more about that in a little while. But that's a completely separate section, so for now we're not worrying about it. But with a temporary scaffolding in, there's nothing better to do than jump into a time lapse and get this built, because veteran players will realize that I am in fact building Ilmango's version of a gold farm, and there was a few reasons for doing this. In fact, there were so many I could probably spend an entire afternoon talking about all of the farms that I saw, as I must have spent about 9 hours researching them. But fair to say that utilizing Ilmango's design means that it's one-dimensional, doesn't require any extra spawn proofing at the top of the nether, and it just has a fairly decent rate of spawn. There are other farms available that might be arguably better, but unfortunately we live in an age where a lot more people are using Lightmatica, and I just personally don't like using it. So I opted for a design that I could find a tutorial on YouTube, which again will be linked down below. Now, just to finish it off, we need some trapdoors, where we can thank Past Mike for keeping bunches of trees in random chests around the world. But don't worry, we will be cleaning this up very soon. But it allowed us to jump back to the nether, where we could place down the trapdoors needed on the farm. Then the final touches of adding trapdoors to cause the zombie piglins to fall down off the top layer. Then the final part is we need to get some piglins in place so that they constantly stay angry at us. And I actually didn't think I would need them, but I think I actually did really good by getting the name tags earlier on in the video. And this is a bit of a precarious situation going on here. Break these. Apparently I just really suck at using the elytra. That's the second totem that I've popped in the last couple of weeks, because I've just absolutely fumbled flying down somewhere. And all I came down to do was create an anvil so that I could add a nameplate these piglins. But there's the first one done, second one done, Third angry boy done. And this should be the final angry boy. Absolutely done. And by a technicality, this farm is now fully complete. Kind of. Because if you look behind, obviously, if I was to attack them now, I would be very much dead very quickly, as there's holes all over. And the reason why I did this is because this killing chamber is completely different to the one that was on the original farm, and there's a fix that has been placed on the internet that will turn this into a usable XP farm as well as a gold farm. But we're going to need some materials, so I need to head back to the overworld, and I think this is also a really good time to just go and top up on our totems, as we've only ran our raid farm once in the entire existence of this world, and we've just used our second from last totem, and I don't want to be walking around without a spare one to hand. And with a quick stop to kill some captains to get the bottles to activate the raid farm went off without a single hitch, although we did get a little bit confused with the last guy. Well, that was a really bizarre end to a raid. There was one more villager that I just had to spend like 10 minutes looking for, and he just fell off into the ravine and died on his own. And then we got hero of the village. But that should also mean that if we could just get in the hole, thank you very much, we should have a bunch more totems that we can now go ahead and put into our end and keep one in our inventory. So let's head out. Quick repair of the tools, because I had some XP bottles lying around. Now I just need to quickly whip around and gather all the materials needed for the improved killing chamber. And I need a carpet, which I think we've got in one of these chests. Yes, we do. And it's more for the storage and sorting system, but I'm also going to grab some slime blocks and some redstone stuff whilst I'm here. But I'm going to need to come back anyway for the storage stuff, because we're going to need to make a bunch of crafters, which I'll do a little bit later on. And the first thing we can do is go ahead and cap these areas off here with some glass, as we no longer need these killing chamber sides, as everybody will be funneled into this one area. I also realized I needed some stair blocks, so hey, are you kidding me? I've literally just got back and went to start building and realized I've also ran out of glass and I need 2 more pieces. Boom. But this should allow me to finish off those 2 sections. Then I need to go around placing 5 snow blocks on top of each other around here. Then I can place down the stairs. Then I just need to go around placing down a bunch of trapdoors. Place a carpet down on the killing block. Then there was a few other details that I just needed to finish up, in which we now have a fully functional platform to kill the piglins on. So all you have to do is just head over into this corner, and then you'll see the piglins through here, and as long as you just hold into this corner, you just swing and swipe and kill them and you'll get the XP. But now we have nowhere for the drops to go, so we need to work on that system. So another trip to grab some repeaters and comparators, which meant we had to go to our villager trader to grab some redstone, but we jumped right back into building the collection system for all of the drops in our farm. And I've just got to say a huge thank you to Undermit3, the guy that uploaded the fix to this farm. It was a genuine lifesaver after spending so many hours going through all of the different types of farms. But I've got to say, Ilmango's farm just had that bit of sentimental value. As some of you may remember, I actually built this farm in our season 1 world about 2.5 years ago, so having it in this world, it just felt right. I had to go and grab some of the gold that I had mined out of the nether earlier on in the episode, which should allow us to go ahead and completely finish off these hoppers, in which, heading back up to the kill chamber, this farm should now be completed fully with a fully automatic gold block crafting system. And the first thing to do is to go ahead and test this whole system, which I have done none of this yet, so if this doesn't work, it's really gonna ruin my day. So we need to go ahead and flick on the lever to get this farm started, and this should begin to start pushing items through here. And then obviously we're not killing anything yet, and then this should send them down there and then down here. So in order to test this, before we go ahead and grab some piglins in here, we are going to go ahead and throw in some golden nuggets. And we're going to hope that they start getting pushed down and we can hear the clicking of it being crafted. And after throwing all the remaining gold in my inventory, we are actually getting gold blocks. So I do believe that this system is now fully operational. So there's no time like the present to go ahead and give this a try. And I must admit, I'm quite nervous because this could go incredibly wrong. And I could have actually gone ahead and wasted hours of my life in building this, and I could have to spend the next couple of hours trying to fix this. So we can put you in our offhand, we can enable the farm, we can then go ahead and set ourselves. Oh, before we do that, actually we need to jump on top of here and we need to grab our bow, and all we should need to do is just attack one of the piglins, head over here and wish us luck. And what's even crazier is the fact that just that time alone got us 10 gold blocks, which is absolutely insane. But let's head over to the end, where I can go ahead and test the end farm from the first swing of my sword. But jumping back to our city, I am genuinely bamboozled by the results of that test. I genuinely suspected that the Ender farm would win, but the actual piglin farm ended up winning per single pickaxe by at least 10 seconds, as it ended up taking me only 34.15 seconds to repair it at the gold farm, whereas it took me 47.47 seconds to repair it at the Ender farm. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to repair all of these pickaxes that need repairing in the shulker, see how long it takes and just how much gold we're going to get from doing this. The only thing I've seemed to have ran into is all of my hoppers seem to have cleared themselves for some reason, and I'm not sure why. I may need to look into this, and because of that, the whole system has kind of become clogged up with swords and stuff. Well, I think that's all repaired, so I'm going to run the farm just for 5 to 10 minutes just to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But I've gone ahead and fixed everything, so it shouldn't happen. I had to use dark oak trapdoors because I was missing the filler items for the last 4. So that could have been the problem all along. I could have just forgot to have done the end one, but we'll find out after running the farm for a couple more minutes. Well, it looks like the system is fully functioning still. Let's go and have a look at the chest. We've got 11 gold blocks in here, which is incredible. And just want to double check that everything up here is still functioning correctly. Yep, it seems like we are A-okay. Moving on to the final farm, as we need a bunch of beacons in this world in order to scale up the speed of which we can complete these mega projects. But the problem is, I have terrible luck at gaining wither skulls. So much so that I believe the statistic is you're supposed to get a skull in 1 in every 40 kills with loot in 3, except for me, it's more like every 140 kills, and it takes me about 3 times as long. So I'm just topping up my rockets as we're about to go on a bit of an adventure, as I'm going to try and build a wither skeleton farm, so we need to go ahead and gather some turtle eggs. So we're going to quickly grab some seagrass, where we have the tedious process here of getting Jimmy over to Janine. And I'm sure you can understand what happens next in that sequence of events with the birds and the bees. I decided whilst I was waiting for the eggs that I was going to jump into terraforming the area around it into grassland, as this ocean is something that we eventually do want to cover, so I thought I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But whilst doing this, I realised very quickly that it was going to take probably about an hour for these eggs to hatch, and I really didn't want to wait that long, so I decided to just gather up some that had already been laid. But we've still got some eggs left over, and I've harvested a bunch, so I'll leave them to kind of hatch in their own time, but we have them there for now. But we can move on to gathering the rest of the materials, which our biggest resource we need is 14 stacks of nether brick, so let's go and gather that real quickly. And back at the base, I came to get some obsidian, but we're going to need a little bit more. So I might as well jump over to the end where we can start getting rid of these obsidian obelisks, which is a teaser for an upcoming project. And I'm not going to lie, being stood on top of these is giving me a bit of PTSD. If you know, you know. Gonna grab some smooth stone for building blocks. Then we need to craft 12 repeaters, a bunch of ladders, and crafting a few things out of wood. And I can finish up the resource gathering by just getting some temporary building blocks from outside of our kingdom. Then we're heading into the nether to go and find a nether fortress that's inside a soul sand valley, as we have quite a few around our nether portal, but I think I remember seeing one like a little bit ways south here at one point in the past. Apparently I didn't, but I'm just gonna keep heading south anyway, because my kind of train of thought is that we'll run across one eventually. Come on, soul sand valley, please. Not what we're looking for. Wasn't looking for you, but you're coming home with me. I think we've checked about 4 or 5 of these now, and we're just being so unlucky. But I've found a nether fortress inside the soul sand valley. The only problem that I think we're going to have is just around here is a crimson biome, and this seems to be 100 blocks away from any other type. Yo, I was just exploring the biome a little bit more just to see what was kind of around it, and I think it kind of extends a little bit further back, so this could actually be it. It is what it could be. Yeah, I cut myself off there, but we are now jumping into the build, and I struggled a little bit, I'm not going to lie, in trying to get the location of the farm initially started, because you have to build it on a certain Y level depending on the bounding box of the overall area, but once we got that down, we were able to jump in and get the base of the farm built. Now to travel back and head onto the nether roof. And yes, I am aware just how much of a waste this was. I probably should have just got onto the nether roof where I built the farm, and it would have saved me traveling 10,000 blocks. But this should be where we need to be so we can begin towering up. I just need to get my temporary blocks so we can tower up and build the killing chamber for the skeletons. And I'm hoping by lighting this portal it should take us to the overworld, which I do need to explain something very quickly. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh, that was close. That was close. That was close. That was not what we were hoping for. Oh boy. Okay, let's clean this up real quickly. Oh. It's a good job we didn't panic. You know what I have just realized? I was supposed to write down the coordinates in the portal that I was just stood in, but totally forgot to do that. Oh boy. But we thank the Dwarven gods for the replay mod, which allowed us to figure out the coordinates, saving me having to travel another 10 to 15,000 blocks. But as we're moving on to building the overworld section of this farm, I do want to go ahead and use this opportunity to just say, as a player, I generally don't like to build farms that are multi-world like this, especially if this was near our Dwarven kingdom. If this was actually close to it, I probably wouldn't have built this farm. I was only happy to do it this once because this was going to end up about 40,000 blocks away from our base, which means the likelihood of running into this is pretty slim. But if we ever end up coming across it again, I'll probably surround it in a dragon or something. This should take us back to the killing chamber, which is always a good sign. Then to just travel 10,000 blocks to get back to the farm, which I will say thank God I stocked up on some XP potions just as we started this, because I thought we were going to be doing a fair bit of traveling. And the worst part about getting back to the farm every time is that I can never remember which kind of way I actually took to get there, as I'm constantly weaving in and out of different biomes, so every time we go back I always have to carve a completely new route back to the farm. But luckily this should be the last visit. We only need to go here once to kind of place down a few last minute things, then it should be completed. And here we are. Now this is going to be a little bit difficult, as we are going to have to try and push these zombie pigmen off before we... And with clearing up all the lights and placing down all the turtle eggs, I'm about to do something extremely stupid, but we're going to go through this portal right here, and this should take us to the overworld portal. Then breaking the glass really quickly and building that back up. We should now be able to stand on this chamber right here, and in a couple of minutes, this farm should start filling up. Oh! I can hear skeletons. We're starting to get a few in right now. Looks like it's a working farm. But before I could let my excitement get a hold of me, I ran this farm and sat there for about 5 minutes. And honestly, the results of just standing here and killing these skeletons for 5 minutes was astonishing. Especially for how simple this farm is to build minus the travel time. It turned out to be absolutely incredible. Because we got 13 skulls within 5 minutes, which is just insane. Which tells me that this could result in roughly around about 150 skulls an hour, if my maths is correct, which it usually isn't, to be fair. But with these farms done, this means there's a bunch of projects that can now get completed before the end of the year. But with that said, guys, it is the end of the video, and if you are new to the channel, don't forget you can go all the way back to episode number 1 to find out how we've almost mined 2 million stone to build this Dwarven kingdom and to get to this point in the series. But thank you for watching, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!